Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Michelle. I am Director of Marketing and Communications here at Marketing for ECPs, and I am so excited to welcome our guest, Wendy Buchanan. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. So today we're going to talk to you a lot about personal branding, but first a little bit about you. You are a licensed optician, an image consultant, educator, and the owner of Be Spectacular. And Wendy, I just want to say that you've done just such an amazing job branding yourself. Like I've seen you on TV, I've listened to you on podcasts, you're speaking at events. In fact, we met for the first time just a couple months ago at an event that we were both speaking at. And I saw you across the room in this like pink checkered like suit and of course, wonderful frames, much like your, dress today. And I saw you and I was like, okay, I have to meet this woman. And I'm just so excited to pick your brain today. So thank you for being here. And just maybe to get started, for the people that maybe don't know you as well, if you could share a little, maybe a backstory, how you became globally known as the eyewear image expert that you are today, we would love that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for noticing me. That's part of personal brand.
How could I not?
How do we stand out, with all of the other platforms that are out there, all of the other people, really differentiating ourselves. And my backstory, I started out as an optician, grew tired of it. I was 10 years into my career. I made a huge mistake, spent all this time, money, and I don't love what I'm doing anymore. And I made the big move to leave, and I trained to be an image consultant and started an image consulting company called Perceptions Image Consulting. And I wasn't too far into that when I realized that I'd get everybody put together in clothing, which image consulting is helping people put together a personal brand, which is funny that we're talking about that, through the use of clothing and accessories. And I would do that for people, and then they would put on their glasses, and there was this huge disconnect. And I was looking at it going, I know I can do better. I can fit them with better eyewear. And they were telling me, you're an optician, you should be able to get me styled in nice eyeglasses. And I started to bring eyewear into my business. And what happened was that all my referrals came from the people wearing cool eyeglasses. And I was a young entrepreneur. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew that this was business that was coming to me quite easily. And I pivoted and I became Perceptions Eyewear. I get the two mixed up all the time. And I really had to learn how to market myself, how to brand it, because I was an optician and I was an image consultant. And I married the two, but I didn't know how to market. And to throw something else into the mix, I decided to be mobile and not have a brick and mortar store. So it's, do I market the mobile? Do I market that I'm an image consultant and style? Do I market that I'm an optician? And I really had to figure it out. And I guess the short story is it took years to figure out what my brand was and how to market it. And what I learned was it was the stories that I created that created the brand that drove the business that I have today.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's such an inspiring journey. And I think it's so cool how your personal experiences and your passions led you down a path that maybe you never initially envisioned. Like I'm guessing that that's not what you thought was going to happen. This wasn't all necessarily planned out from the start. So that's very cool. Our viewers can learn a lot, not just from like what you do, but the journey that you've taken to actually get there. So that's very cool. If you, for anyone listening, if you get a chance, I've heard the extended version of how Wendy got to where she is today. And if you look her up, you can find videos where she explains it, because it's such a cool story. Okay, well, let's dive into personal branding. That's what this webinar is all about today. And so what is a personal brand to you, and why should eye care professionals care about theirs?
personal image, I think what I learned as an image consultant, that personal image is a reflection of your brand. And personal image is how you choose to show up, how you choose to put yourself together, how you walk, how you talk, how you project yourself. And something we don't often talk about is, what is the perception of that image that you choose to show up in? But it is personal image is part of your personal brand, but your personal brand maybe reflects more your strengths, your passions, your values, your skill set. What do you bring to the table? And what do you hope to achieve with that brand? Like, what are your goals and aspirations with your personal brand? And so there's a little bit of a distinction, but I think personal image and personal brand, personal image kind of piggybacks into personal brand.
For sure. Yeah, that's definitely like a powerful perspective, because I don't think it's something that a lot of people don't like naturally just consciously think of this day to day, but they're doing it without realizing it, because these days really everyone is a brand. And like, for better or for worse, we are all branding ourselves, whether we know about it or not. And I think it's really important to develop your brand and to get comfortable marketing it, because like I said, for better or for worse, things like the internet and social media, they're not going anywhere. And that really expands our potential audience, right? So I think that, we were chatting a little bit earlier about like your personal brand being very intentional and it's strategic, but it's above all else, it has to be authentic. And that was something that I feel that from you when I see, you on social media, when I see you on TV, when I listen to you in podcasts, like I really get that authenticity from you and your personal brand. So it's something that I really admire about you.
That's I think a perfect point. It's either everybody's out there. We have no choice now. Or when I started 26 years ago, I couldn't figure out how to market myself, but we didn't have all of these fairly inexpensive platforms. And you can be intentional with those platforms and creating your brand, or it can be accidental. Mm-hmm. But you get to choose, and you get to control the narrative of what that looks like, giving it just a little bit of time and thought. And the old saying used to be, fake it till you make it. And I'm really like, well, then you're not really being truthful to yourself, and nor are you being truthful to your audience. So just be you and show up. And if you try to make it perfect, like how many of us are perfect? None. There's not one on this call that's perfect. We're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I find on social media, when I act the goofiest and I'm having fun, I get the most feedback. I get the most interaction. I get the most people making appointments with me. And I'm like, I'm just being a goof. I'm not being perfect. But I'm building my brand. I'm not building somebody else's brand. And I think that's important to recognize too, that you are the brand. And when you are the brand, whether it's you as an independent optician, optometrist, or as an independent eye care professional that's working for a corporation, as long as you're building your brand, you'll always be marketable. You'll always be employable. You'll always be able to start your own business because it's your brand, not somebody else's brand.
I love that. It definitely resonates with me. And it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes about personal branding comes from Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, a company you may have heard of. And he said, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And that quote just really stuck with me because if you think about when if there's someone in your practice and then they leave and then they go and tell their friends about the experience, or their colleagues, or they post about their experience online, like what are they saying about you? Like what? And that is your brand. It's like how you made them feel. It's what they're saying about you when you're not there.
Oh, and you nailed that word. How did they feel? And I really believe we're in the business of helping people feel great in their eyewear and look
Yeah.
awesome and see extremely well too. But it's that feeling that you create through the experience and through your brand, in how you're presenting within your optical, how you're showing up, how you're communicating, walking, talking. So that personal image coming into it, and then creating a story for them that they can easily repost on Instagram,
Yeah.
that they can share on their platforms, that they can talk to somebody when they're out for dinner. I get so many referrals from two people having dinner at the same restaurant, talking to each other about eyeglasses. And it's like that person decided that they wanted to show up in really nice eyewear, and that person, and now they came together and they talk about me. They don't even know it's Perceptions Eyewear. They'll just say, "Are those Wendy's glasses?"
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want them to, it's like, it's more than just the company. It's the people that make the company. And then the other thing I think so important, and with what you do too, is that how you show up on Instagram and TikTok is authentic, which you touched
Yeah.
on, and congruent and consistent with what they actually get when they walk into your gallery. If it's a completely different experience than what the expectations been set on Instagram, everything falls short.
Yeah. Yeah. Branding is all about consistency. If you're
Yeah.
on someone's website, for example, and maybe it's all, maybe it's not a great website, but then the Instagram's all polished and,
Yes.
different branding. You're almost like, is this the same person or the same
Yeah.
company? Like it's hard, the same business or practice. Like it can be hard to tell. Or if you have this online presence and then you show up to the practice and it's nothing like you expected, like that's not going to be a good start for sure. So, I mean, people these days, they're absolutely going to your Instagram pages or social pages to check you out before deciding if they even want to step foot in your practice in the first place. So you want to make sure that your online presence and just you personally are demonstrating your brand all the time consistently, so that and make sure that you're sharing your values and what you stand for. And yeah, exactly, it's how you want people to feel and it's how you're positioning yourself in the market. The rest of your marketing strategy is going to be based around this, so it's really, really important to get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. And your personal brand's like not necessarily going to, like, where you're strategically going to look at the numbers and go, did your personal brand attract X percentage of sales, or was it X percentage of multi-pairs? It's not about that as much as it is that you have the opportunity to attract those people and then eventually influence maybe their buying decisions and create that experience that then further builds the brand. And probably, like a lot of people on here, a lot of people who say, I followed you for 2 years until I needed glasses. You were on my goal list for my next pair of eyeglasses. You don't realize, even though you might not get the likes or the hits, people are watching you all of the time, and your actions have an impact on them, and that can be positive or it can be negative. And it's up to us to make sure it's positive most of the time.
Yeah, you touch on something that I feel really passionately about, where it's like, okay, yes, engagement and reach and all of those metrics, like they have their place, but there's sometimes I think you just need to like forget about some of the vanity metrics, and just really focus on having social pages that resonate with your audience, the people that you're trying to attract. Because you're right, they're watching, even if they're not necessarily liking it, it doesn't mean that they're not seeing it and that it isn't still speaking to them. And I something that you mentioned earlier is that You know, if there's two people that are chatting and say they're at a restaurant or what have you, and they're talking about a new pair of frames, but they're talking about you. And it's so interesting because they could easily be talking about the brand of the glasses, but they're talking about you and you styled them. And I think that that's a really amazing distinction, that's the power of personal branding, that it's like you are now in that equation, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Now,
I think that's a really good point to make too, because we can piggyback on brands to a certain degree, but it has to be followed up with expertise and experience.
mhm.
And when you bring the brands and the expertise and the experience all together, then there's a story to tell.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So my next question here that ties into what we've been chatting about is, do you have an example of, say, like a success story where a strong personal brand has had a significant impact on an eye care professional's practice or their career?
Yeah, there's a lot. When I'm doing my training, the first part of it is all about this. Who are you as an
Yeah.
individual? What is your personal image and your personal brand? And how do we tie that into the brand of the organization? And I had one eye care professional who really stepped into who she wanted to be. So where she thought she was, she took some time and really worked on that to come up with what I call spec style, which is just a category of personal image. And it's not to box anyone in. It's really more just to give a platform to just help figure it out and take you through the stages of who you want to be. And when she stepped into that and became confident in her look and her style and was wearing cool eyewear, all of a sudden her sales went up. Little bit by little bit, she got more confident. And she started to actually, you know how it used to be good, better, best lenses? She would always start at good because she wasn't sure. She was almost like imposing her style on them, that, oh, they can't afford this lens, so I'm going to start here. And what she did was she went from eliminating the first two tiers and just going right to the top all of the time. And that's kind of what I teach too, is just go here. You can always back down. But it was her personal brand that gave her the confidence to sell. And we are salespeople. Eye care professionals are salespeople. We are medical, technical, and sales and fashion. And how many professions have that many combinations? Like, we kind of
Wear many hats.
jump into anything, but the personal brand, I believe, gives you the confidence to move through everything, medical, technical, because even with medical, we're selling the optometrist, we're selling the eye exams, we're selling myopia management, we're selling dry eye. It's everything all of the time, and that personal brand weaves into that. And for this particular individual, it not only helped build her confidence and her career, but it helped build the brand of the optometry clinic, because their underlying goal was to become that go-to fashion destination.
I love that. I love hearing like the real life stories that can emphasize the value and the potential to drive those tangible results. I mean, there are a ton of benefits to establishing your own personal brand, but one of them that I really love is that the actual process of doing it can help you uncover your unique superpowers. And it sounds like this person you're talking about maybe learned a lot about herself in this process as well, which is very cool.
I love what you just said, superpower, because we all have a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to be a duplicate of someone else. If you're a duplicate, you're kind of always a knockoff. I always relate it to New York City. If you're a knockoff of someone else, you're more Canal Street. And when you're you, authentically you, powerhouse, you're Fifth Avenue. And you want to stay on Fifth Avenue. You don't want to be a duplicate of someone that ends up on Canal Street. That might only be the women that love luxury handbags that might get that analogy. But for me, I think that is foundational to who we are, and what our brand can represent.
Okay, well, this is wonderful. And so we've chatted a lot about like the importance of personal branding, but for all the viewers out there that are wondering, okay, like, but how, like, where do I get started? What are some actionable steps that
Mhm.
our eye care professionals can take after this webinar to start refining their brand presence?
Yeah. Um, so I actually wrote these down, and I'm going to be a little vulnerable here, and I'm going to share some of mine, which kind of makes me a little clammy knowing that I'm going to do this. But September is like this new year, and I think it's a great time to really get grounded in the foundation of you, that I call it. Who do you want to be? I would say the first action step is really to carve out some time this weekend to write down how you see yourself and how you want the best version of yourself to show up. And I'm going to share just a couple of mine. And I
Please
rewrite
do.
these all of the time uh, because I think we're in constant evolution. We're never there. We're never perfect. We're never done. But I use what's called I am statements. And one of my I am statements for my business is I am the eyewear stylist who serves my clients at the highest level, helping them to show up authentically and confidently wearing great eyewear. I am an organized sales trainer who presents my processes in a passionate and easy to understand manner. I am a friendly and kind person who gives and receives generously. And I'll go back and I'll read them maybe before I'm going to do a big presentation, before I'm doing a 5-hour training, to really get grounded in who I am so that I'm confident in that, so that I can forget about me and go out and just serve at the highest level. The second one, we kind of talked on this about not being a duplicate of someone else, just being authentically you. And even when I train, I don't teach people to be mini Wendy's. I teach them to be the best version of themselves and apply that theory in their own way so that it is authentic. But I love, if I can recommend an Audible book, it is Effortless Success by Michael Neal. And one thing that he said that I wrote down is all self-esteem is not comparing your insides to someone else's outsides. And I think in the world of social media now, it's so easy to go down that rabbit hole of watching what someone else is presenting and then comparing yourself to that. Being grounded that you're really secure in who you are, and knowing that sometimes what we see on social isn't all 100% true. And
Oh,
being
yeah,
okay with
somewhere.
that. So really, that's where I say, ditch the fake it till you make it, and just be truthful to yourself right now. Wherever you're at, that's exactly where you're supposed to be, and you're just going to grow from there. Something that you and I talked about in past conversations was be brave enough to learn new things and be okay with failing, because that's part of the learning process, that we can't do something the first time perfectly, that it's going to take practice to learn that. And my son never wanted to play hockey because he said to me, I don't know how to play hockey. I don't want to play hockey. It's like, well, you're not going to learn how to play hockey till you start playing hockey. And so I think that's important for us too. And I know me personally, I'm always taking another course, learning something new so that I can just keep expanding. One is pickleball. I decided to take
I
up
love pickleball.
don't know anything about pickleball. I'm 8 weeks into lessons playing pickleball. We have a tournament. Guess who's the biggest loser? It's me. I didn't win one set. I had the best time though, and I played with some of the best players, so I know my game got better, and I was around people that I want to be able to play pickleball like them. So I surrounded myself with people who are successful in pickleball. And probably the last thing I would say is I'm reading, because I did write this down so that I didn't forget it, is reflect on what you really want. And when you're doing that homework this weekend, is write 3 or 4 words that best describe your values, which are, the ideals that you choose to live by, and write that down. And I think they make us accountable to ourselves. They're like a moral compass, help us guide our decisions, or where we spend time, who we spend time with, and it also guides our actions. And my 4, I'll share with you, are anything that I do in work, in fun, at home with my kids, is I want to be impactful, inspiring, engaging, and fun. And those were the 4 words that I have right now. Now that could change next week, it could change next month, but I'm always kind of revisiting that and thinking, is that still truthful to who I am right now and what I want to do and how I want to serve people?
Wendy, thank you so much for sharing some of your personal principles and values. It's so powerful. It can be daunting to just embark on this journey of personal branding. It can also be a lot of fun, and so having these actual steps is going to be really helpful for the people that are looking to really carve out their own personal brand. And so I'm just looking at the time here, and I'm like, oh, I definitely have some more questions for you. We've talked a lot about personal branding. I also just want to mention professional branding as well. So that would be like branding your practice as a whole, which really focuses on your values and mission and vision of your practice. And it's similar in that it's also done intentionally and strategically, but also being really authentic. And so even if I'm letting you in on some marketing for ECPs, we do help practices rebrand. And when people one of the misconceptions is that a brand is like your logo and you choose a few colors. And it's you should see the process that our team goes through with a client when it comes to branding, because it's all about how are you going to position yourselves in the market? How do you want people to feel when they see your brand? What do you value most? And it's like I mentioned earlier, it's the foundation of your overall marketing strategy. So it's so important. And I truly, Wendy, I feel like no one knows this better than you, because you've done such an incredible job branding yourself and your business. And I just want to thank you for sharing all of your wisdom. And if you don't mind, with the last couple of minutes here, I have a little rapid fire question section here, if you'd be open to it. So I have a bunch of questions. I can
almost as much as sharing my IMs.
I'm just going to fire some questions at you. And honestly, just if you want to pass, you can just say pass. I wish I had some cool rapid fire music to play right now, but I don't.
Yeah, the music might give us a different energy.
Yeah. So just imagine it's there. Okay. But first, actually, before I do that, I'm going to turn on my Q&A here.
Okay.
And so if anyone has any questions, they can submit them. And when we're done the rapid fire, Wendy, we can read some of the questions and get some answers there. So, okay, rapid fire, here we go. I've always wanted to know this. How many pairs of glasses do you personally own?
45.
Oh my gosh. Have you ever stopped someone in the streets to give them advice about their glasses or sunglasses?
No.
What's the biggest eyewear trend right now?
The color red is hot for fall.
Okay, I like it. A style of glasses you believe will never go out of fashion?
Cat eye.
Yes. One color everyone should try in eyewear?
Turquoise.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that one.
Look at my guy here, my girl.
Oh yeah, totally.
My girl Ethel.
Yeah. Looks good. Looks good on you, Ethel. Okay, what is your social media platform of choice?
Instagram.
Same here.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a bigger one. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone, perhaps a viewer here, who's just beginning to explore the idea of branding themselves?
We touched on authenticity, which I think is high, and be ethical. I think, and it's a long-term game. Building your brand is long-term, and there's two ways to build it. You can kind of step on other people's toes, hop over them, burn bridges, or you can be methodical and slow and steadily grow every day, develop your relationships, and build a community of people who trust you and love you. And it's a long-term game.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing. We do have one question here, and it was, can you share your mantra again? I am friendly and kind, or would you mind sharing yours again there?
Yeah, I shared three. I am the eyewear stylist who serves my clients at the highest level, helping them to show up authentically and confidently wearing great eyewear. I am an organized sales trainer who presents my processes in a passionate and easy to understand manner. I am a friendly and kind person who gives and receives generously.
Thank you. Okay, I have one more question in my rapid fire series of questions here. And it is, where can people find you? Where can we learn more about you?
So Instagram is Be Spectacular Training. And then my website is bespectacular.com, optical/optical. And when you think about Be Spectacular, really ties into personal brand. Be spectacular as whoever you are, as the person that you want to be, and be spectacular in the services that you provide to your clients every day.
I love that. Okay, well, thank you so much for showing up as yourself today. We did have another question roll in as you were answering that one, and it says, what do you think of branding via the optical lifestyle, like sharing videos of life in optical, handpicking frames, the lens making process, assessing and filling a high prescription, etc.? So what do you think of branding via the optical lifestyle?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think if that, it goes back to, we're so many things, we wear so many hats, that is part of the process, part of how you make the lenses and what that looks like and your service. And I think, and again, you can't get it wrong. If that's how you want to show up and what you want to share, then it's going to be perfectly right for you. And you're going to attract your ideal clients based on that. And there's people that really care about what goes into making lenses, and it's great information. And so do what feels on brand for how you want to show up on Instagram or
Amazing.
LinkedIn, wherever
Yeah,
you.
of course.
Yeah.
There's so many
Or
these days.
like too, because the website is part of the brand, and I know that's what you help people with. And that's, so many people go to that first. There's still a large segment that go to websites before they go to Instagram and TikTok. And it gives you a platform to give people the bigger picture of who you are and what you stand for and what you can offer them.
Sure. We always tell people that all roads lead to your website. So through all your social platforms, you're trying to get people to your website. So you have to have a high performing website that represents your brand. It's so important. Okay, so we have multiple questions pouring in here about, where are your glasses from, Wendy?
The one I'm wearing today is the Bean Bee.
Okay, that's awesome. And let's see. So I'm just reading some other questions here. This is a great comment. It says, stop selling glasses and start making money. You have to understand that they're buying a perceived image. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, stop selling. Stop selling. What was the?
It says, stop selling glasses and start making money. Understand they're buying a perceived image. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes. selling isn't a bad word.
Mm.
I think that's a perception that some people have, and especially coming from medical background, that we believe that selling is a bad word, and it's not. If you can replace selling with serving, then I think
Perception shift.
yeah, it is. It's that perception. And so, and I think we are in the business of serving people and providing an extraordinary service for them. And in the process, we're making money and building businesses that are successful so that we can go on to serve more people. So there's nothing wrong with making money either, that you should be making money, that's part of, if you're not going to be in business to serve anyone much longer. And then the last part of that, my ADHD is kicking in. What was the last?
Well, good. It was understanding they're buying a perceived image.
Right. And that comes back to feeling. How do they want to feel? And if you want to stand out against online and AI, it's the feeling and the emotion and the story and the experience that you create that helps you stand out and helps you build your personal brand.
I love that.
Yes, yes. It's all good.
Yes. So you are all going to be busy this weekend with Wendy's action steps. And if you're having trouble coming up with like knowing exactly who you are, what you represent, and if you're struggling with that, find your truth tellers in your life and ask them how they perceive you. I think that would be really, really helpful, and a good exercise to learn how you are already being perceived, before digging into like, okay, what is your purpose? What value do you bring? And starting to develop that personal brand. We are unfortunately out of time, Wendy. I feel like you and I can chat for just much, much longer about this topic and many more. One of those being, I'm going to need links to also where you get your suits because I'm interested. But thank you so much for everything, for sharing all of your wisdom with us today. And I'm so excited to see you at the next event. So thank you kindly. And again, where can people find you? Sorry, what was the handle there again, in case they missed it?
Instagram is Be Spectacular Training, and the website is bespectacular.com/optical.
Awesome. Okay, so everyone, be sure to go find Wendy and follow her authentic content. You are not going to regret it. So that is for sure. She posts fantastic stuff. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who joined today. And I hope you all have a spectacular rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Bye.